now look to Elliot Bromley, the chair of our consultative committee, to open the case for the opposition tonight.
Thank you, Madam President. As Chaitanya has just made very clear, India is going through tumultuous times. Demonetization, communism, GST, the Pulwama attack, Swachh Bharat, Aadhaar, Mangalan, the Balakot airstrike, the JNU sedition row, cow vigilantism, and Section 377 reform, to name but a few. Will India look to the future, or will India remain stuck in the politics of the past? Will India look to make the country more secure in difficult times, or will India seek to diminish it? Will India look to create a future for all, or will India look to privilege the religious and class elite? It is by these three metrics that we must judge in whom we have confidence. And it is within these three metrics that the future of India will be decided. The motion before the House is not about whether you're anti-Modi, or even whether you're a supporter of the Bharatiya Janata Party or the Indian National Congress. The proposition this evening must provide a truly viable alternative to the BJP government. The truth of the matter is that there are no silver bullet solutions to the challenges India faces. Yet, the proposition will promise you the world, criticize them now, and ignore their disastrous past. But before I show to you how no such suitable alternative exists, and that the government of Narendra Modi is one in which we should all have confidence, albeit not wholeheartedly, it is my very great privilege to introduce the proposition this evening. We've all just heard from Chaitanya Kediyal, Chief of Staff here at the Union, a second-year law student at Exeter College and, as you could probably tell, a competitive debater. Now, I first met Chaitanya almost 2 years ago, a young, unassuming individual who had chosen to study at Oxford, albeit after a vast array of offers from the world's top institutions, as he so eloquently slurred outside of the KA after an evening of port and policy with the Conservative Association. I know KD has mentioned many times before how he obsessively watched videos of Mehdi Hasan and Shashi Tharoor speaking in this very chamber throughout his teenage years. Thoroughly inspirational. However, as far as you've got the dress sense down to a T with the black Nehru jacket, unfortunately, even given your Doon education, you've still got a long way to go. Next, you'll hear from Mr. Salman Khurshid, and probably not for the first time, given his multitude of visits to Oxford over the past 24 months. I would like to suggest that this has something to do with the amount of free time he has at his disposal since his unfortunate election result of 2014. However, I'd much rather believe it to be a result of his affection for the Hall, which I clearly sympathise with. It's a real pleasure to have you join us. Following this, you will hear from Mahi Joshi, librarian-elect here at the Union, a second-year PPS at Trinity College. Although having known Mahi for just under a year now, I know little about her, aside from the fact that she is from Milton Keynes, which may actually go some way to explaining her distinct lack of inspiration. Whilst I would say that being the only proposition speaker this evening that isn't a lawyer, expect to hear numerous non-factual claims. However, given the checkered history of the other speakers, I cannot even vouch for that much. Closing the case for the proposition will be Prashant Bhushan, who we must commend for holding the fort in his partner's absence this evening. It's no wonder, though, as to how easily Arvind Kejriwal was able to push you both out to the Aam Aadmi Party, given that Yogendra Yadav lacked even the sheer drive, focus, and energy to submit a visa application in a timely manner, let alone head a political party. Joking aside, though, your work is inspirational, and I wish both you and Swaraj Abhiyan all the best in the years to come. Madam President, these are your guests, and they are most welcome. No confidence doesn't just say, I disagree with Modi and the BJP, but instead that you support a dynasty recognizing privilege and nepotism opposed to merit and hard work. Instead, that you support a party focused around exploiting minority appeasement opposed to unity and nationalism. Instead, that you support a party of whom 32% of candidates fielded for the 29 elections have criminal charges against them for crimes as serious as rape and abduction. Instead, that you support a party that overlooked widespread atrocities during times such as the emergency. I could go on, but instead, I urge you to look beyond your preconceptions this evening. Really consider what the motion before the House means. The proposition this evening must detail no confidence in Modi's government beyond reasonable doubt. Whilst the proposition will criticise the implementation of GST, the agony caused by demonetisation, and the tensions brought about through the likes of IOJA, tonight this will remain insufficient. The proposition must prove that confidence simply cannot be derived from the happenings of the past 5 years. I'm not going to stand here and try to spin you on all failed pledges, the whereabouts of Aceh Din, or even the numerous wrongdoings of Modi's government, from the creation of jobs to farmers' incomes. Instead, I will leave that to the proposition. Why? Well, the novelty of the motion before the House is that we, the opposition, will likely agree with much of the criticisms of Modi's government. However, the burden of the proposition this evening is beyond that, to prove to us that there exists an alternative to Modi's government, that is more capable of leading India into the increasingly uncertain 21st century. I will structure my argument around 3 critical areas whereby we must recognise confidence in Modi's government. Firstly, Modi's government remains contemporary and dynamic. Secondly, Modi's government has made the country more secure in challenging times. And thirdly, Modi's government is India's best bet for a future for all. So, to my first argument, Modi's government remains contemporary and dynamic, while the dynastic Congress remains stuck in the politics of the past. The glaring challenges that face contemporary India are recognised across the nation. However, Modi's government possesses a progressive understanding, not only in terms of conception, but also in terms of solutions. One stark example of this is that of Niti Aayog, a policy think tank with the aim of enhancing cooperative federalism. Niti Aayog replaced the archaic top-down structure of the Planning Commission, which had vastly overrun its course, replacing with a more contemporary and dynamic bottom-up approach. Another impressive feat has been the continuation and implementation of the Aadhaar scheme under Modi's government, a context-sensitive solution to facilitate leak-free cash transfers whilst operating across the plurality and scale of the nation. Although not conceived by Modi's government, the initiative represents innovation beyond the path dependency of the West, a look toward the future opposed to the often directionless developments of the past. The examples listed represent the intention and forward-looking nature of Modi's government and present strong reasons as to why we should have confidence. To my second argument, Modi's government has made the country more secure in difficult times. Security requires leadership. Now, I'm sure many of you instantly thought of Kashmir and Indo-Pak relations as soon as I mentioned the word security. So let's deal with that first. Kashmir is an ongoing conflict with no reasonable and widely accepted solution within sight. Modi has embodied control and confidence in his responses, be it through the first visit of an Indian PM to Pakistan since 2004, or for his handling of the Balakot airstrike, a time when the world remained anxious of potential escalation. Following on from this, Modi's government is potentially most recognisable for its efforts toward brand India, India's image on the world stage. Modi has instilled confidence through his engagement with heads of state in an attempt to secure India's position on the global stage, visiting 59 countries across 6 continents during his time in office. You may be thinking, why exactly is this good though? Well, given India's population size, partnered with the role of its economy, as well as its responsibilities as a regional hegemon, India ought to have a say in the global narrative. Modi's government have perfected their communications, from communicating with the domestic population via social media, to neighbours, to global superpowers. One must have confidence in the current BJP government in this respect. For far too long, India has been at the disposal of the United States or Soviet Russia. It's about time that India cemented its position on the global stage, and Modi's government has done commendable work toward this. Modi has been able to drive through policy and change as a result of the outstanding majority achieved in 2014, the first single-party majority in 30 years in the country's lower house parliament. The politics of the past have largely been dominated by coalition governance. Sluggish, lack of accountability, and offer of continued excuse for lack of progress. The victory of 2014 by Modi's government made headway into establishing a two-party system. Again, why does this matter? Modi's government highlights the need for coherency, execution, and getting things done. Whilst Modi still might not be the action man in the sense of Shah Rukh Khan in Don 2, he still is an action man of sorts. I will use the example of the goods and services tax introduced in 2017 to prove this point. India has long been tasked with numerous indirect taxes, which proved extremely inefficient, from industry to even paying for food at restaurants. The Modi government introduced a comprehensive destination-based tax within 3 years of office. The origins of GST date back to the 1980s. India cannot afford to return to a Hindu rate of growth. India must look towards contemporary, efficient, and long-term solutions, with an emphasis on execution and delivery. Modi's government has done this, and for that, we must have confidence. To my third and final argument, India must look toward a future for all, and we must maintain confidence in Modi's government to do this. This may come as a surprise, given the rising intolerance and communalism largely centered around Hindu nationalism and caste-based violence. This is not acceptable and warrants absolutely no confidence whatsoever. The aforementioned remains my most considerable fear of Modi's BJP government. However, whilst I will not for a second excuse it, hope exists elsewhere that may provide some reassurance in helping move beyond this increasingly dangerous situation. Modi launched the nationwide Swachh Bharat mission campaign in 2014 to clean up the country. The challenge is vast, aiming to remove open defecation completely by October this year, and in turn, satisfying the UN Sustainable Development Goal number 6. Since 2014, Modi's government has constructed over 86 million toilets, reducing the number of persons who openly defecate from 550 million to fewer than 150 million. The universality of the mission is immensely commendable beyond societal divisions and a feat that is more than worthy of confidence this evening. Whilst my argument thus far has concentrated largely on Modi's government as a whole, it is worth recognising the individuals. Yes, characters such as Yogi Adityanath remain, but as do the likes of Nitin Gadkari, Minister of Road Transport and Highways, and Piyush Goyal, Minister of Railways and Coal. We must maintain confidence in the majority of individuals for not only holding the government, but also fellow members of Parliament to account. Modi's government has made extraordinary efforts nationwide in infrastructural development. They have by no means claimed to have solved every challenge, but the focus and direction continue to be meaningful. Nitin Gadkari increased the pace of road creation from 2 kilometres per day to 16.5 kilometres per day in his first year in office alone, and has contributed to increased capacity up to around 30 kilometres per day as of now. Whilst Piyush Goyal has been responsible for fast-tracking the electrification of nearly 18,000 villages in some of the remotest corners of India. In 2000, less than half of India's population had access to electricity, and by 2018, more than 80% had access. If such a pace continues, it has been suggested that India will have complete and universal electrification by the end of next year, what will be a landmark achievement. So I've provided you with 3 firm arguments as to why this House ought to have confidence in Modi's government. We are all aware that the Modi government has made mistakes. And we're also all aware that you cannot expect challenges formed over 65 years or even longer to all be solved in 5. Beyond this, there is currently no suitable alternative. Congress is archaic and disingenuous, and coalition governance would fracture the nation. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, vote for forward thinking, vote for security, and vote for a future for all. I urge you to oppose the motion before the House. Thank you.